Hi, welcome to KoKo's World, where we dive deep into knocking life the F out. I'm your host, Carlisha Stokes. Welcome to another episode of KoKo's World. As you all know, it's your girl, Carly. I'm the host of KoKo's World, and I am here to talk about all things knocking life the F out. We have been doing the damn thing, especially as women. 2024, a woman ran for president. If you look at history, us women, we're badass. But also, I want to say women have to prioritize ourselves to be able to show up our best self and to be able to continue giving life to others. And I don't mean by motherhood of giving life, but pouring and mentorship is a lot of energy that's required, and all the things women do on a daily basis to give to others. And I'm also grateful that we have the discernment within us to naturally want to nurture things. That's just part of our natural DNA. But you also have to nurture yourself to nurture others. So that's what this topic is all about today. We're going to talk about womanhood, self-care, the importance of self-care, and mom talk, because of course, as you all know, I did not push my daughter out of me, but she is my daughter, and we have went through highs, lows, the indifference, and also as a mom, I worry about her on the daily. Sometimes have found that I once was pouring more into her than pouring into myself, and it took me on a journey of losing myself. So that's what we're talking about today. How you can easily lose yourself if you're not too careful. So, ladies, I have a question for you. How are we supposed to love ourselves, our partners, our children, our dogs, whoever we choose to love? How are we supposed to do that if we're empty ourselves? I just want to have a conversation about this. I personally have learned from my own experience, as I just shared, that growing to learn how to be a mom, there's no manual. There's instructions of how to change a diaper. There's instructions on how to fix a bottle, how to feed a baby, how to burp a baby. But the journey of the ups and downs, the emotional roller coasters, self the self-hate whenever you feel like you have to show tough love, or coming up with a hard decision of how to discipline a kid once you realize that spanking is not working, or yelling is not working, or all of the tactics that you've used is not working, and just the endless pressure of trying to use the word perfection, the trying to show up as your best self when you have to work 9 to 5 to survive. You have to bring in money. You have to be emotionally available to allow them to cry sometimes, to express themselves, or emotionally available just to share with you how their day is going. And then you have, if you're in a relationship, you're needing to meet the needs of your partner. Meeting the needs of your home. If you have pets, meeting the needs of your pet, making sure that they've been walked and cuddled and loved and reassured that they're okay, just like you do for your child. We wear so many hats. Like I named things that we have to go through in a daily basis. Literally, we work an 8-hour day, and usually you're home for 4 or 5 hours before it's bedtime. And then you go to bed and you repeat that same cycle all the way over. And let's not talk about children in sports. When my daughter was growing up, when she started playing volleyball at 11 years old, my wife at the time was in chiropractic school, which was equivalent to medical school. So she went to class for 8 hours a day. That was her job, full-time job. And I worked and also went to grad school. And literally, it was, our daughter had to be at school by 7:45, 8 o'clock. I had to be at work by 9. I did school drop-off in the morning. We worked. My wife did school pickup. When we got home, my wife assisted our daughter with school while I prepared dinner. We walked our dogs as a family. We would eat dinner And then literally it would be maybe an hour of adult, or not adult time, but family time. And then our daughter went to bed at 9. We would usually spend an hour, hour and a half of catching up for ourselves in the day. And then we were in bed no later than 11. And then we started that same cycle completely over every single day, unless there was volleyball games. And then those nights we would have volleyball. And then it was travel volleyball. And the list went on and on and on. And eventually I snapped. And we're going to talk about it. We're literally going to go through everything during this journey of parenthood, and also how it looks now that our daughter is in college and where we're at. But at the beginning, it was hard. It was hard juggling so much. And I mean, for like parents that are single, I commend you. And I understand and I empathize with you, because I know for someone who had a support system, that had a wife who, and she wasn't my wife at the time, she was my girlfriend, who literally did it 50% and I did 50% of the responsibilities. And then we did 100% of parenting. So I can only imagine when you have one parent doing 100 and 100, because where is there time for you? Where's their time for your partner? Where's their time for each other? And then where's their time for family? You know? So I often have a lot of people who argue with me that they have literally no time, no personal time. And I don't want to sound, I really do not want to sound insensitive, but I personally believe that we make time for what we feel that is valuable to make time. We put our kids in all these sports and all these activities for what? Literally for what? We all know that if you have a son, I want to say it's between 1% and 5% they're going to go pro. So what are you doing it for? Of course, I am here to say that I put my daughter in volleyball because I knew that it would give her structure, it would give her discipline, and it would give her an outlet, because us as parents could not reach her for the things that she was going through, because we adopted our daughter. And if you want more information on that episode, you can just go to the episode of Khalees and I, and she shares her own story. But we adopted her at 11 years old. She needed a smart and safe outlet, and that would allow her to be around kids that were, sports mentality, that was positive, something to do every day after school. That was our why behind volleyball. Now, granted, did we grow to love it, and did we grow for her to love it? Yes. But every single year when it became closer for her to go to college, my wife, who wasn't a student athlete, she went to school for basketball. We both told our daughter, you do not have to play volleyball because of you needing it to pay for college. That's the reason why we're so hard on you for good grades. We want you to play volleyball because we want you to do it as long as you love doing it. The moment is no longer fun, we're okay with it. We're not living vicariously through her. That's a podcast for a whole nother day. But why do we do the things that we do? Because obviously that is the excuse that I hear for so many people. I just do not have time for myself. I cannot give myself 1 hour a day because I have X amount of responsibilities with my kids. My kids have X, Y, and Z to be at every day. That's a choice. That's a choice that you made. But also, just like it's a choice for you, it was a choice for me to do something that I knew was attainable, even if it meant that I was losing 1 less hour of sleep. I was also boosting my dopamine and boosting my mental health and boosting my relationships with my wife, with my daughter, with my families, and also boosting my health because of the fact that I was doing something that filled my cup. And once I started realizing that and I started practicing it a little at a time, I quickly was able to realize how my whole family was benefiting from it. What got me to this point, though, was COVID-19. As we all know, COVID was the disaster of the world. But also, people went through a lot of mental health things. I was one of those people. A lot of people, marriages did not last because we were stuck in the house all together. And we also were homeschooling. So, as I shared before, my wife was in chiropractic school. I was working full time in healthcare. And also, I was in grad school, and our daughter was in the eighth grade by this point. So, we're homeschooling her. My wife is in school. She's finishing up her last year of chiropractic school. I am finishing up my last semester at that time of grad school. And I am literally working around 18 to 20-hour days. I was sleeping 4 hours each day because I, at the time, ran numbers and I provided those numbers every 4 hours. Every 4 hours, I had to provide numbers. This is a true story. Obviously, I was lacking sleep. I was lacking human engagement. Everything had shut down. And the only thing that did not shut down was my job, thank God, because at the time I was the only person working in our household. So, of course, I needed my job. And of course, I was grateful for it, but I had no life balance at all. I would work those 20 hours. I was in, like, I would take like an hour break to write up a paper, submit that paper. My wife was finishing up things. And then we had our daughter who also was taking classes as an eighth grader that we were having to homeschool her for. So, and at the time, we were not financially at a place where I could stretch to pay for a tutor to come to our home to teach her. So it was my wife and I. I'm really good at math, and my wife is really good in science, and my wife is also great at history, and I'm really good at English. So I would teach English and math, and my wife would teach history and science. And literally, we had a school in our home, and also I worked in our home, and it was, we live in a 1,500 square foot house. It was not a lot of space for three people, two dogs, and a limited access outside of the house. You know what I mean? So when we finally came to our senses, it was when I was in Lowe's one day and I had a full on panic attack. I thought I was dying. I had never had a panic attack in my entire life. And my chest got really tight. We were there. I don't even remember why we were there. But we were at Lowe's and I ran out and ran to my car and like could not catch my breath. It scared the living shit out of me, my wife, and my daughter. Khalees was like, dude, you need to go to the hospital. Shelby, was like, no, she's just having a panic attack. She turned on soft music. And that day is when I was like, I have to do something. One, it was embarrassing as hell for my daughter to see me like that. Two, it scared the living shit out of me because I was like, what am I doing all this for? We are homeschooling Monday through Thursday. We're packing up our cars Thursday nights. We're on the road come Friday because our daughter plays travel volleyball. Travel volleyball team is going all around the East Coast for games. And then we're getting back late Sunday nights. And I'm having to take my laptop and work on the road. When we're getting back, we're unloading my car. I'm still working. And then 4 hours later, after I get a nap, literally running off a nap, I am back at it. I didn't have time to see how my daughter's mental health was doing, my wife's mental health. My wife didn't even get to walk for graduation, for graduating as a doctor. We hadn't seen her family, my family. At the time, my dad had moved back from Wisconsin. He was living in Wisconsin. He moved back. I hadn't seen him because of this pandemic. And I realized then that I had to do something. I had to at least go outside and go for a bike ride. I needed to go hiking. I needed to go to the gym, something. So a couple months passed. I realized that I had lost 40 pounds. I looked really sick. Like, honestly, I'm so grateful for the people that were like, you look so good. And I'm like, I absolutely do not. My mental health was shit. My doctor wanted to put me on antidepressants and anxiety medicine. Um, it was a dark space for me. But I always said to friends, because before the pandemic, I did CrossFit. So I would go to the gym. I slowly started, trying to prioritize myself 3 days a week, 1 hour class. And then on Saturdays I would do the community event. And that was kind of like my mental time. Not realizing that CrossFit is great for people that love it, but it is more of like, I love it. I love CrossFit, but it's more of like the community. They hang out together, they work out together. If you don't show up, it's kind of like you're abandoning your friends, you're abandoning your team. So it was a little bit too much pressure for what I already had going on. So that's why I had dropped weight so much, because I wasn't eating, I wasn't taking care of my body, but I was working out excessively. And also, I was going at 6 o'clock in the morning, right before I would start at 7:30 to work. And I remember didn't go to bed until almost 2 o'clock in the morning. So I would work 2, sometimes 3, get sleep, get up by 6:30, and ride to the gym with our neighbor. And we would do CrossFit, who is my great friend now. But we would go and do CrossFit together, burn around 1,100 to 1,200 calories in 1 hour, and then go home and start working. I would drink coffee that would fuel me, and I would work all day. And then we would homeschool, and then we would have volleyball practice. And you all guys, you know the routine now. So, I had a breakdown. I couldn't do it anymore. So at first, life was just so overwhelming that the idea of going to the gym and having to choose my workout was too much. Reading a book was sometimes too stimulating. So I would binge watch TV shows that actually gave me a sense of control and a sense of patience and calmness. We started ordering Lean Kitchen because I didn't have to cook. I didn't have to go to the grocery store. I didn't have to be around people. I didn't have to make decisions. It was something that was easy for me. Nothing in my schedule changed. It couldn't change because, once again, I primarily made all the money. My wife was finishing up chiropractic school. Our daughter was getting homeschooled. So going into her freshman year of high school, I hired a therapist. I declined my antidepressants. I started just eating. I realized that the more sugar and caffeine that I fed my body, the worse things would be for me. So I ended up going like all natural fruits, vegetables, and protein, of course. And that is literally my what I eat now. Like, I never changed it. People laugh at me because when I order coffee, I order decaf coffee. I just really want to drink it for the taste, I don't need caffeine or, anything to stimulate energy for me. And my therapist started talking to me about words of affirmation. So she was like, right now, Carly, you do not have in your schedule to dedicate an hour every single day. You're not going to be able to do that because, one, you're dedicated as a mom. I would never ask you to not be a mom for Khalees. You're dedicated as a fiance to Shelby. I would not ask you to do that, to remove anything of your normal schedule. And on top of that, you're working excessively. But what I will ask is that you can carve out 10 minutes a day and write out at least a list of 20 items that you're affirming into yourself. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's easy. Like 10 minutes, that's no brainer. Well, when I started doing that, I realized that Yes, it made me feel extremely happy. Yes, it filled my cup. But sometimes I wouldn't go to bed until 11, 12, and I would be like, oh, I can do it tomorrow. Well, when I would wake up the next day, I felt as if I didn't show up for myself the way that I promised I showed up for myself. But I made sure that I showed up for everybody else on my list of my to-dos for that day. But I didn't give myself a 10 minutes. So I put it on my phone. I would carve out 10 minutes in between lunchtime, because around that time, Khalees was doing her own thing. She would be in virtual classes. Shelby wasn't here, and my dogs were usually taking a nap by noon every day. So I carved out 10 minutes. My alarm would go off. I would grab my affirmation book and I would write out my 20 things that I was affirming inside me. And then I would write out, then it started growing to, I wrote out those 20 things in like 2 minutes. Then I would write out 10 things I was grateful for that day. And then like 5 things that I was manifesting or praying for that I just really wanted to focus on resetting myself for. And usually at that time it was, dedicating and finding space for me again. So then my therapist and I talked and she said, okay, what do you think? This was a question that she asked me, and this is what changed everything for me. She said, I want you to know that as a woman, when you're able to pour from a full cup, the potential you're at, versus when you're pouring from an empty cup. She said, genuinely, I ask you to ask yourself what your potential could be if you were pouring from a full cup. When she asked me that, I remember this day like it was yesterday. I cried. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Because I remembered how vibrant I felt and how unstoppable it felt to just be me, to put on a face of makeup and feel confident and, you know, to just have time for me. For me. No questions asked. No, Carly, can you do this for me? Mom, can you be there at this time? None of that. And I told her, I said, what if I bumped that 10 minutes to 30 minutes a day? And she said, okay, well, when would you carve that 30 minutes out? And I said, well, I pick up my daughter from school, and every day, instead of me, because at the time I wasn't ready to go back to the gym yet. So I told her, I said, I can spend 30 minutes of silence in my car when I pull back home from getting my daughter, and just sit in stillness. And she said, you're such a busybody. I don't think you could do that. And I said, but that's what I'm naming that I need to practice doing for myself. She was like, okay, I support it. She said, on top of the 10 minutes writing your journal? I said, yeah, I'm going to sit in 30 minutes of stillness every day. And she was like, okay, so now we're at 40 minutes of dedicating to yourself. And I said, yes. So literally did the exact same thing. Noon every day, my alarm still went off. I still did my 10 minutes of affirmation, gratitude, and manifestation. Then when I would pick Khalees up from school, she would go in the house. I would say, Khalees, I'm going to need you, please, to walk the dogs when you go in. I'm going to sit in the car for 30 minutes. I'll be back inside in just a second. No problem. I sat in my car. I would turn it off. I would crack my windows. I would listen to the birds chirp, and I would just sit there uninterrupted. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I would literally just sit there. Gaining that access was so liberating. Like, the first time I did it, people were like, you're just sitting in your car. Like, what are you doing? And, honestly, I told them, I said, I'm having some me time. I prefer it this way. But also, when I got out of the car, y'all, I came to my house, I cleaned, I cooked dinner, I was in the best mood ever because I filled my cup. I filled it. So after that, um, that's when I really started focusing on filling my cup and naming the things that filled me up. So eventually I started back going to the gym. And at first, the gym was an evening thing because of my work schedule. And then I was like, you know what, Carly? No, you need to set boundaries with your job. You need to set healthy boundaries. So I started going at lunchtime, and I would go to the gym for an hour and 15 minutes every day, Monday through Friday. And Monday through Thursday, I did weightlifting. Friday, it was yoga only. Fridays I go to the gym at 9 because of yoga. And then I found a company called Dance to Fit, and that's when I decided to buy into the franchise for the area that I live in, for the market, because she started pouring back into me. So I found a resource that poured into me confidence, poured into women empowerment, poured into me the things that I value most. And when I found that, and also it's something I love doing. I grew up dancing. I danced for 18 years of my life, and then I became a collegiate cheerleader and did that for the 4 years that I was in college. So this is my DNA, you know. And when I found Dance to Fit, I was able to find something I needed as an adult that I was missing. And so then Monday through Thursday, gym time. Mondays Mondays and Thursday nights I dedicated to Dance to Fit because I had became a member. And then she goes on tour, and at the time she went on tour 2 weekends out of the year, and those 2 weekends I dedicated to me. I would go to class because we it would be a 2 hour class. You would be beat down. I would go take myself to lunch or dinner depending on the time of the class, and I would go and get me a massage the next day after the class. That was my weekend to fill my cup. Obviously, this is going to look different for everybody. You know, some women needs a girls trip or um whatever, you know, everybody is different. But for me, this is what helped me learn to fill my cup. So then after Dance to Fit, um working out, eating right, doing things that fulfilled me, I now um focus on these three basic things. And I've communicated with my wife and my daughter of the things that I need from them. You know, because for me to do this, we did have to adjust in our home. You know, I nicely told them I have to go to the gym at least an hour a day, Monday through Friday. And I have to pick up hobbies. My wife started back playing basketball. I started back dancing. Our daughter was in volleyball. And we all supported one another in those activities because it helped us also as a family find time to bond besides just working in school all the time. But also, it showed my daughter the importance of what is the word I'm looking for? Compromising, team playing, you know, because we were doing so much of pouring into her, which I'm so grateful for. And I love the parents that do this. But also, when they do that, they also lack in pouring into each other as a couple and also ourselves as as the individual. So, this is the three things that I focus on every single day of the year. I give myself 1 hour of gym time. Even if I don't go to the gym, I give myself 1 hour of me time. That means that um, I still do the 10 minutes affirmation. I do 10 minutes of meditation every morning before I wake up. Even if I wake up like 11 o'clock and close to the afternoon, I still give myself 10 minutes of meditation. And during that 10 minutes of meditation, it's prayer, it is just me. Me, 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 me. 1 hour a day at the gym, minimum. I give myself 1 day date a month. That day date means I get up, I fix myself up the way that I want to fix myself up. I may go run errands at Target or places that I enjoy going to, the mall, shopping, whatever. When I leave there, I go and get me a massage. I get myself a pedicure. I go and get my nails done every month. May go get waxed. Whatever that is, I consolidate that all. Sometimes it doesn't get done in a day, but I give myself 1 day out of the month, 8 to 5, if that means starting at a coffee shop, whatever it looks like, I give myself that day of all me things to do. Just me. I don't answer to no one, not even to my wife. My child knows where I'm at. My wife knows where I'm at. We dedicate time for ourselves. And then one vacation a year for yourself. That vacation could be a girls' trip. That vacation could be a family vacation. Whatever you want to name that vacation, but that vacation should be something that is solely filling your cup. Solely. Or that vacation could be just you going away by yourself for a weekend. Whatever that is, that's what I do. It is so vital. When I started practicing this, I became a different person slowly but surely. I started to find myself again and find my inner happiness and be happy and content. It was a transformation that I honestly cannot explain unless you just start practicing it. So I say all this to say, besides all of just the day date and the hour a day, also as a mom, it is important to provide yourself self-care. You know, we are on go all the time. And just as it's important for us to carve out time of, a date night, play dates for the children, time to go to the gym, all of those things we have to carve out. You also should carve out time to wash your ass, to do your hair sometimes, to put some makeup on. Or even if you don't want to put on makeup, give yourself some tender loving care of making sure you lotion down your body, or buying some sexy undergarments that makes you feel sexy and confident. Just because, you don't always have to wear lingerie or a nightgown for your partner. You can also wear it for yourself. Self-care is so important, and I would say it's just as important as mental health care and all the other things. You have to provide yourself with self-care because it is the soul to helping you gain confidence. It is the soul to helping you keep your energy. And like I shared before, if you're not pouring into yourself, how can you, or how dare you, I should say, not how can you, but how dare you pour into other people? Because you're only pouring ugliness into somebody else because you're not able to pour beauty and positivity and kindness and love and dedication and respect and integrity and value and strength into yourself. So if you're not pouring nothing, if you're pouring from a dead cup from yourself, then obviously you can't expect to pour anything beauty, anything strength, anything worthy into someone else. And as you all know, I love myself, but I'm able to know how to be loved because I love myself too. So I leave you guys with this. What could you do if you were pouring from a full cup? What potential would you have if your cup was filled? And how would you fill your cup? I would love just to have some dialogue from other people, because I find this a serious topic, number one. But number two, I just genuinely feel like the year of 2025 is a year that is meant to be happy. It is meant to discover who you are. And also, it is a year for all of us to find love and inner peace, inner acceptance. So I want to say so much. Thank you guys again for another episode of KoKo's World. Thank you all for your endless support. And I hope that you found this episode helpful, because this is genuinely an authentic journey of mine, and how I was able to literally get pulled from a very, very dark space. And still my family be okay with me choosing myself. And with that, I also see them being able to choose themselves. And also for my daughter, often, I want to say this before I leave. My daughter, I often thought that I was neglecting her or neglecting things that she needed. But with me being able to show up and show her the importance of self love, it made her also start to develop self love and self worthy techniques, and start practicing some of the things that I was also doing. So, while I say all that, I just hope each and every one of you that's listening know that you're beautiful, you're strong. As a mom, there's no manual, so there's no right or wrong answer. The only thing is, you have to choose what's right for you. I hope you all remember you're loved. And I thank you guys so much for joining for another episode of KoKo's World. See y'all guys soon.